So I made this build like a really long time ago and intended to turn it into a speed build video and then just never got around to it. So I figured what a better time to post it than now when I'm actually trying to like grind YouTube content a little bit. So this house was based off a random floor plan that I found on Pinterest actually. I believe it was called like Katarina Cottage or something like that. So I didn't follow the floor plan exactly, nor did I follow how the house looks exactly. I kind of tried to in the beginning, but you'll see I kind of shifted away from that. Anyway, check it out. So I started off with kind of just building a rectangle shape and kind of adding onto it. That's how I tend to start my builds, is just randomly working with squares and rectangles everywhere to try and hope for the best. In this case, it didn't work too well for the best. You'll see I ended up messing around with this quite a bit. Now, this area back here, this like weird little 2 square bump out that you see in the back, was actually supposed to be where they had a staircase in the actual floor plan. I didn't end up making this 2 stories, one because I could not be bothered to fit a tiny little room into there with a staircase in it. It's a very tiny house. It's actually a tiny house if you have tiny living. It has the perks and everything. It also had this porch area, which I wasn't really sure what to do with because it kind of had like that fancy, I don't know the word, pergola maybe? That like wooden fancy looking thing, which we do have in The Sims. You'll see that I add it later, but they had it like raised up onto a porch and I was not gonna mess with The Sims and raising things for this. And then I tried to go with that green metal roofing, which I stuck with for a little while throughout this video. I'm very glad I ended up changing it towards the end though. I don't think the green, personally, for my taste, I did not like it. Green is my favorite color, just not so much here. I wasn't too much of a fan of that. But basically here, I am trying to work out the floor plan and I'm trying my best to kind of copy what they had in what I saw on Pinterest, which was a little bedroom, little bathroom, and then basically a big kitchen. And I wasn't really gonna have much room for like a living room anywhere. I knew that from the start. It was like my least big worry of this build was actually fitting a living room in here. I was like, as long as they have somewhere to eat, your sim can play video games on their phone to get their fun up, or you can buy them a bookshelf when you actually have money, which this build I think ended up costing like 19,000 something, so it's pretty close to like a starter Sims budget. I did make this build a little bit pricier than I wanted to, but it's because I did not hold back with packs. I actually redid this build. I went around and changed a couple things around and uploaded it a second time to the gallery. So there's a newer version of it, which I wasn't liking the roof too much in the end, so I changed the roof around in the newer version of this build. I also limited it to only using base game, laundry day, and seasons. This way it was more accessible for more people. I also made it so it was only like 17,000 simoleons, so it actually works as a starter home, and your sim won't be totally, completely broke if they were to use this as their starter home. I got obsessed with this green fridge and ended up carrying it throughout the entire house, which was very of me. I tend to do a lot of green in my builds, though I try to avoid it because I don't want all my builds to look the same. I'm always drawn towards the green. I messed around in the kitchen a little bit because I wasn't sure what wood color was really gonna work in here, but I ended up just liking, I guess it's like an oaky looking kind of one. It's like this nice lighter wood, which usually I'm a dark wood person, so I was surprised by liking this. I actually used some dark wood on the walls. You'll see I did some wood paneling in there and I really liked how it turned out. I only used it as like an accent wall because I didn't want it to be too much. In the newer version of the build that I have of this, since I'm using less packs, I actually messed around with that area a bit too, and since I wanted it to be cheaper, so things are a little different there, and I actually removed that bump out from the back of the house. So if that's something you don't like at the end of the video, is this little bump out on the house, I highly suggest checking out the newer version of this build that I did on the gallery. My gallery ID is Ajiri with 3 I's at the end, Ajirii. I always love throwing bathrobes on the back of the doors. I just think it adds a nice touch. I put 2 back there, not really thinking this is probably a single sim if you're doing a starter sim. I really think what I blew most of the money on was just little decorations that I wanted to place everywhere, because when I was redoing this build trying to make it a little bit cheaper, I was just struggling figuring out what to remove to actually make the build not so expensive. And I really think it was just a lot of the decorations and clutter that I threw around. I wanted to fill this little area. I was deciding if I wanted to make that part of the bedroom or if I should add it as part of a closet, so I did. So you kind of have this like 2x1 area in this house that's just absolutely useless and inaccessible. Feel free to change it around if you don't like it. I was just like, there's nothing for me to do here. It's getting blocked off, and then I'll use this other 2x1 spot as a closet because I like to add closets in my builds. I think it's just a nice little touch of realism. I was getting really frustrated alt placing because I hadn't figured out really how to use Sims 3 camera yet at this point, so I was still a little Sims baby trying to alt place with the Sims 4 camera. If you've done that before, you know how frustrating that is. I was really going back and forth if I should even put curtains in this build or not. I think it kind of ties the room together a bit. I was gonna go with the green ones, but I felt like it was almost too much green. I feel like this like slightly off-white, almost eggshell color, it's a little creamy white. I feel like it was a good option for the curtains. I didn't want the room to be too much. And then I also did the same thing with the rug. I really wasn't sure what to go with. I eventually ended up going with this white, like fuzzy looking rug, which I sized up. Here I am moving the bathroom around once again for like the 100th time throughout this build. Here's that wood paneling I was talking about that I kind of use as an accent wall. I didn't want to use it all throughout because it kind of looked weird when I did. So I went around with this wallpaper that matched but was just plain white. And I feel like it definitely brightened up the space a bit. And I wanted it to look like doors, but I couldn't figure out quite how to do that. So I just decided not to. And then this is me changing the roof because I realized the green wasn't for me and that this little patio situation was not gonna work. And here I am putting that wooden thing out there. So I lowered this down because it was getting really frustrating to try and place things with the foundation risen up. So I messed around with that a little bit. I wanted to build another little porch area coming out of there so the stairs didn't look so odd, but it just would have made the build too expensive. And I figured it's meant to be like a starter home that you would expand upon. So I wasn't too concerned with how the side patio of this house looked like. If I had a bit more money and it wasn't a starter, I probably would have done more and made this patio a bit more fun and in depth. But I think for a starter sim and like a cheap beginner house, specifically a tiny house, I think it's enough. There's 2 benches, there's a table out there, just a little seating area I think was fine. And then I went in with just some cheap landscaping and then some terrain paint as a path up to the building. It's really frustrating with this door because if you pay too close attention, you will realize this door is not centered on the stairs. There was no saving it. I'm so sorry. There was no saving it. So it's gonna stay like that. I did some more terrain paint to make it look like there's a little path over to the back patio and I wanted to darken up a little bit more. So I thought it was a good way to diffuse it by using like a sand terrain paint and then that darker like muddy terrain paint on top of it. I kind of like how it turned out, but let me know what you guys think about that. Trash can actually ended up getting sacrificed so I could finish hanging up curtains. We just went with your budget Walmart plastic trash can in the end because we could not afford the fancy stainless steel trash can. So this is it on the gallery. I just called it small single bedroom home because I wasn't creative enough to really come up with a cute name for it, but I'm kind of regretting that at this point. 19,983. So your sim is gonna have like 17 bucks. Good luck. I wish you well if you use this as a starter home. Look how old this is. When I am recording this, it is January 23rd, 2024. I shared this June 10th, 2023. It's been a little bit since I built this. It's a little bit pricey for a starter home and I used quite a few packs. I've got cottage living, seasons, cats and dogs, city living, parenthood, dine out, tiny living, and laundry day all in here. It's quite a few. So I did remake it. Find it right here. You can see here that I changed this roofing here like I was talking about. I moved a couple things around, pretty much got rid of the patio area just because it saved a lot of money. So if you wanted a starter home, I recommend this one over the one in the speed build part of this video because it's only 17,663, which is much closer to what you would want for a starter home in The Sims. And it only uses seasons and laundry day. So it does look different inside. I used a different bed. It doesn't really have that green color scheme going on for it, but it's still a good starter home. I still like it. And it still has the exact same floor plan minus that little bump in the back. I just moved it in, which I kind of wish I did in the regular build too. This house does use bb.move objects, so make sure if you don't know how to do that, Control-Shift-C on your keyboard and then bb.move objects into the in-game console chat and then place your house. This way things don't get all moved around and messed up. Okay, so here is the house actually placed on the lot. Let's just go in and give you guys like a little tour. So here she is all around. Our little patio area out here, which I honestly think is pretty cute. I do like it quite a bit. I feel like this would be a pretty nice place to sit, but we do have that weird like bump out over here, which the roof kind of drives me crazy here, but there's not much I could do about it. And I went with a really basic foundation as well. Here she is. This is what she looks like. I'm quite proud of her. All right, let's head inside. So here is the kitchen area. I guess the sim that I had playtesting here decided it was a good time to make a meal and they left it on the table, but it's okay. It makes it look a little nice in here. Here is the sad little trash can that replaced our nice stainless steel one. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how the kitchen came out, obviously it's like a move-in ready home, so it doesn't have too much life in it yet, but I like that kind of, because it's like your sim can move in, customize it, make it their own. It's kind of fun that way. And then in through this door is where the bathroom is, which in the video you could probably see that I had like an ugly green rug on the floor. I got rid of it at the end of the build just because I did not like how it looked at all. It didn't match the rest of the green. If it did, it probably wouldn't have been so bad. I just went really basic with the bathroom. There's not much I could really do trying to keep it under 20k, even though I was very, very, very towards the high end of keeping it below 20k. By that, I literally mean less than $20. But back out here, here's that little laundry room that I was talking about. I originally had a shelf there, which I removed just because it was ending up being too much money. And then in through here is our bedroom, which again, I really like how this turned out. I think it's a pretty cute bedroom. I really love the green color, and I think this painting that I have above the bed actually matches really well with the color of the rest of the house. It's like a very similar color to what I had on the kitchen cabinets, so I think it works really nicely. I'm not too crazy about the door when I look at it like this. It definitely looks a bit more gray now than it did when I was building it, but overall I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's too noticeable. I still think it's a pretty decent small house for your sim. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to check me out in the gallery and drop me a follow there, and you can watch me do things like this on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern.